Yeah.
I always tell my son, you get exactly what you deserve, son. Nothing less and nothing more. That's it.
In this show, I interview Adam Nager, throwaway kid to multimillionaire, and he's got some of the best, not only stories, but actual practical techniques that you can use to build a better life and to prosper in your life. So hang to the end of this one. This is going to be a great episode.
Welcome to another exciting show of transformation. Prosper with Wayne, creating wealth, health, and happiness in your life. With your host, life and business coach, author, entrepreneur, and lover of life, Wayne Sutton. Prepare to become excited, expand your beliefs, and truly prosper in all the areas of your life. Enjoy.
I'm glad to have you on today, Adam, because we are so aligned in so many areas when it comes to business, when it comes to where business is heading. So again, guys, welcome to another episode of Prosper with Wayne. I've got Adam Nager, a friend, a business partner, someone that I have coached him and his team, and Adam has coached me, and we have a great relationship that way. So I want to really jump in, Adam. You have really I like to say that rags to riches story. You really came from humble beginnings, and I don't know how much you feel comfortable sharing, to building multiple businesses, traveling the world. But I want to give you the biggest insight there. I think is you really helping other people build their businesses. And I know you do it from knowledge, but I also see just somebody that really cares. So I'm glad to have you on the show. Welcome to Prosper with Wayne.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Appreciate it, and appreciate the introduction. And for sure, it's I think back every day, as you know, the rags to riches stories is definitely a true one, where never graduated high school, never went to get my college education, had to put food on the table. I was talking to somebody and coaching actually somebody just yesterday, and telling them, listen, at the end of the day, if I'm somebody that could do it, the throwaway kid, as I was once called, described as, if I could do it, you can too, if you're willing to do the same things that I was willing to do. And so I believe that for everybody listening out there, if you're willing to do what others have done, you too shall reap. But you got to go out there and sow the same seeds, be willing to do the same thing, fertilize them, and then you too shall. But at the end of the day, it's a blessing to be here. I'm glad to be here. And anything I can do to help other people, inspire other people, take people to the next level. You're one of those guys that have helped me and my team prosper over the years. So I love being here. So
Awesome, man. Yeah, so good to have you on. I know when I first met you, Adam, it was through a different organization. I came on board, and I still remember you and your team. And I think it's because you had already moved through at least one coach. And I think there was a little bit of like, who's this guy going to help? Who's this guy now
yep,
that's coming on? And it
yep,
was just that little, I could read you. I remember reading your body language going, this is an uphill battle. I don't know if I've ever even shared that with you. So I thought, let me just bring value. Let me just, and I think that's one thing that is important for everybody. If you just bring value to the marketplace, you will be rewarded, and the right people will recognize you, and the wrong people you'll repel. And I think that's what I tried to do with you. And we've built a great friendship, partnerships, and but tell me a little, for people that are just jumping on this podcast and going, okay, why should I watch this video? Why should I listen to this episode? I know we're going to cover a lot here in the next few minutes, but really just kind of share a little bit about Adam Nager and
yeah,
adamnager.com, just so
yeah, yeah, for
people know
sure.
what to expect.
Yeah, for sure. So, serial entrepreneur, got started fairly early, but dropped out of high school when I was 17. Um, Family, unfortunately, was split parents. Mother was down in Florida, father was up in Boston. And so, really, at the age of 15, 16, Wayne, I had to figure out a way to put food on the table. Wasn't supported so much at home because my mother was disabled. And so I looked to those folks, and I said, between my mother and my father, and some other folks around me, friends of the family, family members themselves even, I said, do I want to follow in that path or do I want to step out onto a different one? And I really was almost forced to figure that out. I was never into drugs or alcohol or anything like that. I'm a type 1 diabetic since 1992. So always had that feeling of having to take care of myself, but then became and really came and discovered a place where I had to not only take care of myself health wise, but also take care of myself financially. And so that happened when I was a junior in high school and dropped out my senior year to work full time and just set out on this path of helping others, making an impact every day, trying to wake up and figure out why am I here today, what am I doing, and go out
Right.
there and make an impact on a daily basis, and know every night that when I lay my head on that pillow, that the next morning I can wake up and say the same exact thing I said the day before because everything's transparent. There's no hidden agenda. It is what it is. It's kept me real through the process. And, now I stand here today. I've got 13 companies and employees working all around the world and impacting a lot of people at a lot of different levels. I worked for the Department of Defense without my college degree. I was working for a 5-star general for a period of time. Just had really great opportunities presented over the years, but I worked hard for them. Never burned any bridges. And I think one thing that people can get out of this call is, if you're in a place right now where you're wondering what do I do? How do I take this business to the next level? You got to figure out why you're doing what you're doing. Why? Not just the surface level. When I coach people, I think you know this a little bit about me, Sutton, but when I coach people, I'm always asking why. Not just because I wanna make more money, because that's a surface level why, not just because I want my wife to be home, right? That's just a surface level why, but really why? Well, I wanna create more wealth so that my son doesn't have to grow up the same way I grew up. And so
Yeah.
my father was not in my life at all, for many, many years, and when he was, I saw him once a year, typically, and it was for an afternoon, maybe, go out bowling or something like that. When I had a son, I didn't want that to be the same type of relationship, and so unfortunately, my wife and I divorced. But when she moved back to Boston, which is always there, right? It's always right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, because my son's there. I said I'm going to be there for my son, and so now my son's been up in Boston now for 5 years. And every 2 weeks, every other week, I am up in Boston. And you know this about me, Sutton, because sometimes you'll see that behind me and sometimes you'll see nothing behind me. And I'm up in Boston every other week. And I can go when I want to go, why I want to go, how I want to go. The reason I can do that, though, is because I had a really passionate, emotional why. Why am I doing this? And that gets me through all of these distractions that we have in life every day. Because if that why is just surface level, I'm telling you straight up, if that why is just is just on the surface level.
Just a quick break from the show. If you have ever thought about becoming a life coach, a certified life coach that can help other people and get paid well for doing it, this is how I've earned a majority of my income over the last 15 years. And I want to share with you exactly how to do it. We have a free book called Life Coach You. You can go to lifecoachlifestyle.com, download the book. That's going to come with some videos explaining how life coaching works, how to get certified with us at Inner Compass Coaching, and how we can help you build a business that pays you. So you can earn multiple six figures a year working from home, helping other people. So this is, again, something that may be for you. Go to lifecoachlifestyle.com, get your book. I'd love to talk with you personally, see if there's something we can help you with. And again, I'll go further into it inside the book and through some emails. Let's get back to the show.
We're Our minds aren't typically built to get us through whatever that obstacle, whatever that distraction that we have in front of us. But if that why is so emotional, it comes from here. You get emotional. Your kids, you get emotional for them, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
wife, you get emotional for her. If it's a deeper level, that why will pull you through any damn struggle that's in front of you today. Anything. I
100%.
promise you. I
Yep.
promise you. So
Yeah.
that was my story. Is I figured out how to get emotional around what I was doing, and I now today I'll say I sell with emotion. Uh, so when I'm working with a doctor, I'm pretty large in healthcare now. Most of my companies are healthcare based and healthcare related, and so when I'm talking to a doctor, they hear the emotion, they understand the story. Even if I don't tell them the story, they understand that there's a story there, and it's a lot easier when people know that you care about them.
Yeah,
To
I think
make them needle move.
yeah, that's really good. And when you said you sell with you sell with emotion, I think that's the biggest key. You can learn all, and you know this. I mean, if there's one person that has studied every language and persuasion, and I've studied it and teach it, but I'll tell somebody I can give you word for word sales tracks, linguistic language patterns, all of the neurolinguistic programming, all of this cool stuff. But if that congruency isn't there, if that belief isn't there, you're going to have lackluster results. But if you really come in with emotion, it's just it come in with. I love how you said the why. If your why is strong enough, because life will hit you hard.
Hmm.
As life will hit you hard with just situation after situation. You know some of the situations I've dealt with in the last year, and I know some that you've dealt with, and we know that about each other. But you know what? We get on the calls and we get on phone with each other. And we're like, okay, here's our next step. We're moving forward. Maybe we need a day or two. Maybe
Yep.
we need a week.
Yep.
But then we're like, okay, let's get through this. But now we're going to move forward because your why is, like you said, your son and other things that are important to you. My why is my children, my wife, my ministry, things that I've been called
Your
to do.
faith.
So,
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, yeah, my faith. So
Yep.
we have a why that when it's really funny. I love asking people, what are you willing to die for?
Mm.
People love to tell me what they're willing to die for. But most of the time, they're not willing to live for the very same they're willing to die for. If you're willing to die for somebody or something, a cause, then be willing to live for it. I mean, you make that shift, you'll start really producing results.
I love that.
Um, yeah. And one thing you said earlier, most of your business is in the health care. How did you get involved in like the medical field or the healthcare field?
So again, you have to figure out what you're passionate about, right? Because if you're passionate about something, and you know this better than I think anybody else, at least any of my coaches, anybody I surround myself with, you know this. You're passionate about helping other people and getting to the next level, whether it be in faith and in ministry or in business. And so for me, it was, I had a uh, I had a situation that happened on my back, and I hurt my back when I was much younger. And I went to a chiropractor. I called a chiropractor on a Sunday afternoon. It happened to be Super Bowl Sunday. I'll never forget it. And I went home because I was hurt, could barely walk. Went home and opened up this thing. I don't know if you remember these things. They called them yellow pages,
Yeah,
big
I do
books that
remember
used to
that.
get delivered,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And so I opened up this thing called the Yellow Pages, and I turned over to chiropractors in this big book, and I just started at the top and I worked my way down and just dialing for somebody, pleading for somebody to help me. And a chiropractor answered the phone. It was on a Sunday. He said, "What can I do for you?" And I told him, and he brought me into his office. And long story very short, he and I became very, very close friends. And in fact, he became a coach of mine, and first name basis and everything. So I'm on the table, Wayne. If you've ever been on a chiropractic or on a massage table, your eyes are down, right? And you're looking through this little hole, right, where your eyes go. And so Steve came in and slipped through this envelope underneath where my eyes are. And so I open up the envelope. He tells me open up the envelope. So I open up the envelope, and inside was a piece of paper with a check at the bottom of it. And the check was for less, and I still get goosebumps to this day. The check was for less than the damn cost of the postage stamp on the outside of the envelope. And I yelled. I yelled to him. I had stim on my back, electronic stimulation on my back, e-stim on
Yeah,
my back.
yeah.
And I yelled, Steve. And so he comes on, he thought something was wrong with me. I said, "What the heck is this?" He said, that's how much I got paid for you, for your service. And so what I was looking at that day was an EOB, was an explanation of benefits. I had no clue what an EOB was back then. Now I know all about EOBs and I could tell you anything you want to know about them, but I had no clue. And so that's where the passion came from. I started working for the DOD. I was in healthcare, and I realized at that point, man, the government's pretty screwed up. The private sector, right? Going out there in the private sector is probably just as screwed up. And so in 2008, I started the journey of helping medical practices just get exactly what they're due to get paid, nothing more, nothing less. And
Mm.
you can hear the passion in my voice now because
Sure.
it goes back to that story of 2004, 2003 timeframe when Steve slipped that EOB underneath my eyes. And so, I set out on this mission of helping doctors get exactly what they deserve, nothing more, nothing less. That's number one. I did really, really well with that. Helped over 2,500 doctors all across the United States do exactly that. And through that process, I realized that doctors were just running businesses. They call them practices, which I never liked, right? Because I don't want you to practice on me, Wayne. I
That's
want
a
you to
very,
actually work on me.
that's right.
uh,
That's right.
and so anyways, I realized though over those years that it's been 17 years now, that doctors are really just running businesses, not always the best. And so I became a business consultant naturally to them over the course of the 17 years. And I've watched practices and I've helped practices from the ground literally all the way up to selling and acquisitions, and doing hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions every single year for doctors, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year in transactions for these doctors. And I said, geez, if I could do it there, and you're the one that really helped me identify this. If I could do it there, I could do it over here with a general business owner and help them streamline their process to make more
Yeah.
money. Uh, and so, yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not just about bringing in money. It's about the bottom. For me, it's a bottom line thing. I'm a bottom line guy. The top line to me doesn't matter. You could make $1 million a day, but if you're only bringing in a buck a day or $10 a day, you're not doing
Sure.
anything for anybody else.
Yeah.
If you can't take care of yourself and your family and ministry. So at the end of the day, uh, I've been fortunate enough to be able to help people the way I have. And now I take that kind of same thought process, same uh, same SOPs and stuff like that I would write over here for a medical practice, and I apply it to a ecom business or um, to any business. As you know, I wrote a book with Kevin Harrington, one of the original sharks from Shark Tank earlier this year. That book just got published, went #1 as an Amazon best-selling book, and it just talks about the grit, the grind, and really performing well on the bottom line because
Mm.
businesses don't stay in business because they're not profitable. Even nonprofits. I've worked with $100 million nonprofits and consulted
Yeah.
with $100 million nonprofits. There are people in nonprofits that make a lot of money, Wayne, a lot of money. And
Sure.
so, at the end of the day, that's kind of the story. That's how the story started, and that's where it is now.
Yeah, and what I really love about that is, as you said, if it works in one industry, it works in the other. And that's something so important when it comes to business in general. Is how I was telling a client just 2 days ago. They have a great product. They have a lot of good areas, but one thing they're missing is the client acquisition system. I'm like, it doesn't matter how great your product is if you don't have a system to acquire clients for less than you need to acquire them at a certain cost. And so, but if you can, any business from somebody selling coffee to somebody healthcare to whatever, you got to have a system to acquire clients. And I know you help even that. I know one of your companies is you actually help people start their own medical billing
Hmm.
um, company. And so really cool. And one of the things you teach is how to acquire clients. Everything's about client acquisition because talking to a very good friend of mine just last evening, actually, and he is an amazing financial. I hate the word guru, but I'll give him that title. Um, he's there, and But he said, Wayne, something we talked about a lot is obscurity.
Hmm.
You can be the best of the best of the best, but if nobody knows about you, it doesn't matter. You can be the best financial planner. You can be the best coach. You can be the best sales coach. But if nobody knows about you, then they can't do business with you. So obscurity is your biggest enemy. And when you can, and how you overcome obscurity is being crystal clear on what you have, who you're going to offer it to. And we've worked on that with your businesses and things that me and you are partnered with together. But I really wanted to have you on the show today because it is that the throwaway kid, I guess you would say. To that, I came from a place of brokenness, and mother died early, lived with family members, and in absolute poverty, and then went from poverty to kind of what you said. I wasn't into drugs and alcohol either, but it was either A, live in absolute poverty, or B, take responsibility. You're not responsible for what you've been dealt in life as a child. That's not your fault, but we are responsible for how we take that and what we do with it. And yeah, can I give my children? I really want my ceiling to be their floor
Right.
in life,
Right.
and
Yep.
and not just my children. People, I don't, I just want to
That's right.
inspire people.
That's right.
Um,
I
yeah,
always tell my son, you get exactly what you deserve, son. Nothing less and nothing more. That's it. Just
yeah,
just what you deserve. Not what you want, but everything you deserve. And so I asked a guy yesterday that I was talking to, just random conversation. Uh, he coaches and works with high school seniors right now. And I think that this is it's interesting in this conversation. I'll bring this up. Um, I said to him, Brandon is his name. I was looking for it, but there it is. Brandon. I said, Brandon, I'm just curious. What are most of these seniors thinking that they're going to do when they go out there in the field, right? After graduating and what are they looking to accomplish in terms of a degree in college and university? I never went, so I'm curious what other people are doing today. I know where it was back then
yeah,
when I was graduating high school and I was supposed to graduate high school. All my friends were going into college and university for different things, but what's the trend you're seeing right now, Brandon? And he said, most of these kids right now are just thinking that they're going to get rich off of social media. And I said, that's interesting. I said, that's the society right now, unfortunately,
yeah,
that we live in. And he says, yeah. And I point a lot back to the parents of most of those seniors right now. Because, they're not raising them the way that we were raised. Right. And that in that grit mentality where, like you just mentioned, uh, if it's going to be, it's going to be up to me.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
If it was going to be for you, right? Given your situation and given your story and your background, if it was going to be, it was going to be up to Sutton. It wasn't going to be up to anybody else. No one else was coming out with a golden spoon, So, but hearing that the kids are thinking that social media is going to be the end all be all and they can go viral nowadays, I just think to myself, the processes that where we are as fathers ourselves, right? I know you're a father. I know I'm a father, and what we're in store and implying into the kids that we're raising now, and even their friends, by the way, right? Even my son's friends, when we associate together with his friends, it's just about showing the kids that hard work does pay off. That's at the end of the day, hard work does pay
yeah.
off. So
So it's such a great lesson, not just for children, but we're responsible for those in our circle of influence. But also we do through social media, through other places, we influence other people. And I want people to really grab a hold of what you just said. It is the hard work. Does that mean I'm not a big fan of, and I've shared this a lot, I'm not a big fan of the hustle mentality, the hustle just for hustle's sake. Um, I read somewhere the other day, Alex Hormozy said, I don't even go to birthday parties. I don't go to celebrate. I don't have time for that. Well, I don't agree with that. That's
right,
Alex.
right,
He can do his life. I want to
right,
have, I want to have my freedom and my fun, and I want to have that. But it does mean being resilient. There's times when, with even family, we go and do things because we worked to do it. And then there's times when I have to say, hey, I can't be here for this. And that may be a tough conversation because this is the obligation that I've set forth as a businessman, as a minister, whatever it may be. This is what we're doing. And sometimes they need to see the sacrifice to
Mhm.
realize, oh, well, we're able to do this because of this. And if we'll get that culture today, like, I'm going to be resilient. I think resilience is the strongest muscle because you will get knocked down. And then you get back up, you're like, how do I go back forward from this? And I think that's something that if that's one thing people will take away from this podcast is do the work. Do the work. And what you said earlier, you got to, if you'll plant the same seeds, if you'll do what other people have done, you'll
Why
get the
wouldn't you?
result.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So why wouldn't you is my question. And I'll tell you, I'll comment on two things real quick. It's the age old saying, work hard, play hard.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so that I show my son that, right? This was his birthday weekend, this past weekend, as you know, I told you. And so I was up there, I flew up there last Wednesday, picked him up after school, uh, took him to a hockey game Friday night. We sat right on the front, right on the ice, Sutton, like literally right on the ice,
That's cool.
right next to the away bench, the visitor bench. And and then Saturday we went to an indoor water park because up in Boston you never know the weather this time of year, and so we stayed at an indoor water park and resort. Had a great time, great dinner out there. He did rock climbing and just a whole bunch of We played mini golf together. We just did a whole bunch of things, just father son. And then Sunday we went apple picking and pear picking, and then it was back to school Monday. And so again, it was a play hard weekend, and that's what I told him on Sunday night. It was a play hard weekend. Now he's got to go work tomorrow, back to school, and dad's got to go back to work. And so that's just what we do. And so that's one thing. But the other thing I want to tell you is that I was a I was a year into business. Most people don't know this. Okay, unless you've read my book. Okay, you wouldn't know this. But I was a year into business without my very first client.
Okay.
Okay. I started May 13th, 2008. That was my incorporation date. It's a date I'll never forget. Okay. And the following June is when I signed my first client. Okay. If I didn't renew my business, I would not be here. But I was
Mm.
still willing to go out there every day and do what I needed to do in my business to keep it running. Okay. I mean, I'll tell you, I was just barely scraping by, just
Yeah.
barely scraping by. Okay. Um, and I put everything I had into that business the first year, everything. I spent $70,000 the first year of my business. I did not know what to do and what not to do. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have anybody guiding me, which I think is really important for who we are, right? That's why I think we are coaches today, is because we've learned a lot of
Yeah.
lessons over the mistakes that
Sure.
we've made over the years. And so, but I spent over $70,000 that year, that first year. And then I finally signed my first client. Okay. And the only reason that happened is because I was resilient through the process. I kept on knocking. I kept on calling. I kept on dialing. I kept on doing what I needed to do to keep that going.
Yeah. And what business was that, Adam?
My medical billing company.
Okay, I thought so. And that
Yeah.
goes to, and I want people to hear that because now that is a very successful business that helps funds your life, but also funds other businesses. Helps you get other businesses going. And I see too many people. They go, well, Wayne, I called. I saw them when I was working a lot in the real estate. Well, I called 200 homeowners. Nobody wants to sell their property. I did 4 podcasts, and now this is a new rebranded podcast here. We're probably on episode 4 now, but I've seen too many people that did 4 podcasts, or I did 10 different podcasts, 10 different podcast interviews, and I didn't pick up a single client. And I really want to grab a hold of them and go, what are you thinking? I did the same thing in the insurance business years ago. I went to friends and family. I mean, I was doing the Amway approach,
Hmm.
friends, family,
Yep.
meeting strangers. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. Um, but really what got me was I was wearing a polo shirt and I had embroidered on the name of the healthcare, it was health insurance. And I'm at a Burger King and somebody said, "What is that?" And that was one of my first clients. And I was like, "Oh, do you have, my little pitch, my little
Right.
elevator pitch." And then we sat down and it was like, okay, here's my first client. That led to another client that called me. He said, "Hey, Wayne, I've got 20 employees." And now suddenly I'm like, yes, we're moving forward. But through divorce and life happens and so forth, the insurance agency fell away. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have somebody telling me, and this is important. You keep going, or here's how to do it. So I went and got out of that industry into another industry. But the key was, I don't know how many people I talked to, and even some of the ventures that we're working in together today, we're
Yep.
just in the beginning phases, but it's
Yep.
going to be phone call and text messages and voicemail and artificial intelligence, and we're doing what it's going to take to build that. People need to hear that. If you're failing right now, okay, that means are you working? Are you failing because you're not working? That's called failure. Are
Right.
you failing because you're working but just not getting what the results? That's feedback, and
Exactly.
it's part of the
Yeah.
process.
How are you accepting or not accepting that feedback is a great question for yourself too. And I'll tell you something, Sutton. Whenever I start a new business, I always start a new journal, and I write in the journal what I did in that business every day. And Sunday night, after I'm done putting the kids down, typically when I'm watching Sunday night football in the recliner, I'm writing down in that journal what my goals are for the next week. And then I take each one of those goals and I identify how I'm going to accomplish them throughout the course of the week, turning the goal actually into an obligation. And that's one thing that
Say
I've
that
made.
again, turning a goal into an
it's
obligation.
it's
Yeah.
one thing that I've done, quite honestly. It's changed my framework, my mind, my mindset. Let me just ask you a question real quick. You got kids, right?
Yes.
Was
5.
it a goal or an obligation to pick them up from school?
Obligation. Yeah.
Okay. So if you start treating your things in business the same way you treat your kids, and you start changing goals into obligations on a daily
Mm,
basis, you're not going to lay your head next to Candace at night until that obligation is fulfilled.
yes. It's funny, me and you've not had this conversation,
We haven't.
but one thing I have said for years is, do you have a goal for tomorrow or do you have an agenda? And my agenda yesterday wasn't people see us on social media, people hear a bit and they think, wow, we're always on, we're 10 out of 10. Well, yesterday I was probably out of a 4 out of 10. The energy level, just things were happening, but didn't my agenda was, I have these videos to record, I have this attorney to call, I have this to do. And yeah, for some days I do it with sheer excitement and energy, and other days
Sure.
I simply do the task,
Yep.
but you get it done. So agenda, but I like that obligation.
Obligation.
Kind
It's a for me. It's a mindset. It was a mindset set change and shift that I made probably coming up on 9 years ago.
mm,
And I will tell you that it changed my business when I did it. Changed my business because, I always set goals. I was always a goal setter. I was in Amway early on, right? And so I always had these marvelous goals. Um, but I didn't have a whole lot of obligations besides making sure that the mortgage was paid and stuff like that.
sure.
And so when I changed, honestly, when I changed everything from that, and my process now, again, it's Sunday night, especially for my new businesses. Sunday night, it's sitting down and identifying what did I accomplish this week, what didn't I accomplish this week, which of my goals got accomplished, right? And I'm not saying not to set goals. I just don't set any business goals. I don't set any business goals that are less than 4 days out.
Mm,
Anything less than
okay.
4 days becomes an actual obligation. So I take my week long goal is kind of the idea. This is the way I work. I set my week long goals on Sunday night typically, and then I break those week long goals into daily obligations. and then I
So good.
plan on the calendar of how I'm going to accomplish them, and then I go
That's
out
so
there and
good.
execute them.
Yeah, when I'm working with clients, one of the things I actually picked this up from a real estate coach, Brandon Turner,
Hmm.
and he picked it up from somebody else, and he picked it up from somebody else. But it's a 7 day. It really is that 7 day checklist. What am I working on in the next 7 days? 4 days is even better, but what am I working on in the next 7 days? And it's really the habits, the actions, the constraints. I think a lot of times we need to go, what could go wrong? What could just, the hell on earth could happen this week? Not just what could happen, what is already a constraint in my business, in my life. So your habits, your action constraints, and then your numbers, your KPIs, your indicators, And I look at that. My habits have to be consistent, but there's certain actions I'm going to take each week. And then I think the biggest thing I see in Adam, and I know I'd love to talk a minute about this, because I know for me, you said the word serial entrepreneur, and that's not somebody that eats Rice Krispies. And we're talking about serial meaning, you know, um, as a serial entrepreneur, though, you're really somebody that is in multiple businesses. Time management is so important because I know the way the human brain works. The human brain works in a way it'll choose the path of least resistance. For instance, it's easy for me to record videos. But am I recording videos or am I calling our prospects? Am I doing so the path of least resistance? So I have been one on block and tackle.
Hmm.
Something that this is the time block. I'm going to tackle this task. And hopefully nothing will interfere with that, but at least I'm setting that up. But how do you manage multiple companies and continuing to grow companies like with your time management? Was it like what's a big
So
key?
good. Yeah. Good. Really good question. So I always say the first thing is it's not me. It's the people around me. It's the people you surround
Mm,
yourself with.
okay.
So if you're a
Good.
solopreneur, as I am in some of my businesses naturally, it's blocking. It's identifying when I'm best at certain tasks. Use that. Use
Mm,
that.
yeah.
Figure out, in the morning I like to get up and get on the Peloton for 15 minutes and then go shower. And then I'm ready. I've got a Celsius in my hand. Kevin Harrington would be happy to see that. Um, and I'm rocking and rolling, right? I'm rocking and rolling. By the end of the day, I'm typically winding down and I'm more creative at the end of the day. I'm more analytical typically at the end of the day,
Mm,
but I'm more sales driven at the beginning of the day, right? I'm more
yeah.
talkative than etc. And so you just gotta too many people, and my employees, by the way, as well, and we coach them on this as well. They get into the fact of, okay, from 10 to 2 I'm going to do this. Why? Because I need to get this done. From 10 to 2 I'm going to do this, and from 12:30 until whatever. And they block their time that way, and they just block it. They don't think about it, and they don't realize when their body is actually in the best mood, best place to get these tasks done, when your mind is right to get these tasks done. Again, I'm more creative at night. And so if I'm
Yeah.
working on creative energy, you may find me at the desk at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Why? Because that's what dad has to do. That's what I've got to do today to get this accomplished, that get this obligation taken care of. But picking up the phone and calling somebody and talking to somebody about business, I'm much more of a morning person. By the way, my support team knows that about me, right? So they block my calls purposefully in the morning and early afternoon, and not at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, because at that point I'm moving more into my analytical creative energy. And so for me, yes, blocking definitely helps. Different businesses, different days, by the way. That's how I operate.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got 13 of them. Some of them are operating companies. In other words, we've got employees in them. Other companies are just there. They're just a box basically to put things into, investments, etc. Um, Finance for me, HR for me is all done typically on one day, and so that's a block day, and that's a day of the week I always know I'm available. And so that day, that time period,
Yeah.
afternoon actually, is when that happens. So it's basically from a lunch hour all the way until 5 o'clock I'm in with finance and talking about HR and finance. But operations, it varies. You get pulled a lot of times. And so, when you're get between multiple organizations and stuff like that, but it's just remembering who you're dealing with, where they're at. They may not be in the same place. They may not be ready to hear what you're ready to hear, ready to explain to them. So, just understanding personalities and stuff like that. But blocking time is, I think it's essential, and eliminating distractions.
Mm. Eliminating
It's
distraction. That's huge. I
it's
agree.
yeah, I mean, on the iPhone nowadays, if you've got an iPhone, I know you do, but if you've got an iPhone nowadays, you can shut your phone off basically during certain hours. And so if I'm in a creative mindset, I can't be distracted by a Facebook message. I can't, because 'cause it'll take me
Yeah,
right out of that, you know?
absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things. I just told my wife I told Candace before I hopped on this interview, I said, I'm taking a few hours, 4 to 6 hours with a notebook. Um, and I'm actually going to go to our church. And the reason I'm going to the church is there's no internet.
Mhm. I
I'm
love
not
it.
taking I'm not taking the watch. I'm
Yep,
not taking the phone.
yep,
And I said, I'll leave when I get my revelation that I need for this thing I'm working on. I'm like, because here I'm going to get the phone's going to ring, something's going to come up. And so blocking that 4 to 6 hours will probably be more productive than a month of trying to do it here and there in pieces.
I love it.
And so, yeah, block and tackle is extremely important. Obligations. I love how Tony Robbins says when your must becomes your shoulds. Well, no, your shoulds become your must.
Mhm.
When I should do this, um, and I had a coach a number of years ago, and he owned a massive amount of real estate. It was just, but he caught me one day, and he was talking with me, and he kept asking the same question. I kept like, is he just trying to get a better answer? But I'm just. He kept asking, and he said, Wayne, 5 times in the last conversation, you said, I need to, I need to, I need to, and he wrote them down. I was like, okay. He said, when you change that need to into a date and time of specific action, and I was like, oh my goodness. And he was so, I probably worked with him about a year and a half as a coach. And now I still catch myself and I go, I need to. And immediately I see his face and I'm like, okay, I don't need to. I'm going to go set a time. And it's been a game changer for me. Been a game changer. Um, so
See what
you've
you can
helped
do with
people.
obligations, brother.
It's obligations. That's the
See
word.
what
That's
you
the
can do
word.
with obligations, man, because I
Yeah.
can't wait to see how it transforms. I mean, honestly, it's been a huge change for me. Huge, 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 huge. And, there's some things that I wanna do. There's some things that I need to do, but then there's a lot of things that I have to do. Like
And and I know when we're working at like certain words have power. So when I hear obligation, I'm gonna tell you the first thing I hear is ugh.
right.
But if you change that mental frame of that to I'd be obliged
I
to.
get to do this.
I get to do this. This for me, um, I used to have a Rubik's cube back here on my behind me. And people would say, "Oh, do you do the Rubik's cube?" And as a kid, I could do it. A kid, I could figure it out. Now, as
Yeah.
an adult, it's just like I get frustrated with it.
Right.
But
Me too.
I said, well, I've never liked puzzles. Like here's a 500-piece puzzle of the Tower of the Leaning Pisa. Whatever. I'm like, I hate those, but I love the Rubik's cube. But the key is, do you see it as a problem, or do you see it as a puzzle, a challenge? I don't like puzzles, but I like a challenge. And so, if sometimes reframing that word, so if obligation is I'd be obliged to, changing the word frame and the meaning of it. Um, for me, I like the word agenda because here's my agenda. Here's what I'm going to get done. Um, but and that's real important for people listening, what word or words or phrase will motivate you, will connect with your why, which is what Adam talked about. Um, I've mentioned this on another podcast, but a great book by Dan Sullivan is Who Not How. And it really, what that taught me was it's not the how am I going to do this as much as who. Who am I going? That's why me and you are in business together in different projects, and I have different projects with other people because it's the who that can get us 10x the results.
Yeah.
Um, And I know that's why when people come to with you with the medical billing, um, in fact, I'll go ahead and give a plug for you there. Medicalbillingopportunity.com, guys. Check it out. If you've ever thought, hey, I want to have my own business. I want to build a business. Well, Adam and his team will walk you through it step by step by step. Um, and I love that because I love the proven process. It's just basically, check the box. I did this. I did this. I did this. And be willing to do the work.
If you're willing to do the same work I do, you'll get the same results. That's what I tell everybody I talk to there. And scaling with Adam is another thing. AdamNager.com is my website. Uh, Anybody can check that out and read up more about me and how I help businesses scale, to the next level. Take most of the businesses we work with nowadays are hovering in the 6-figure range, right? Um, and our goal is always to maximize that, take that up over 7, take that potentially even to 8. But most importantly, increase their bottom line profits at the end of the day as well.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
because again, it's not about the top line. I learned that long time ago the hard way. We had a whole bunch of revenue, and we were ready to close a business because we didn't have any revenue to us as business owners. And I had a business partner back then. This was in 2015, and we had to figure it out. We had to figure it out, and we did. We figured it out because otherwise, we were going to go back to jobs, and we didn't want that opportunity. That opportunity was there, but we didn't want to take that
Yeah.
opportunity. And so anyways, but adamnager.com is all about scaling businesses and what we do, and employing the use of AI with a human touch, as you know, Wayne, which is one of the things you and I are working on together. And
Yes.
medical billing opportunity. If you want to get into healthcare is a great field. One reason I got into it in 2008 was it was one place that I knew, and this was back in 2008, for those of you that remember. Um, it was one place that I knew wouldn't feel the effects of a depression, right?
Huge. Yeah. And I
So
have friends that lost a lot in the real estate. I was in the automotive field in 2008, saw a lot of people lose businesses and lose their lose everything. But you're right, medical's there. Uh, I'm glad you mentioned artificial intelligence because that is definitely, we're going to be doing some podcast on that and um, doing some business, and we're doing business in that sector as well, because that is definitely not only where things are going, it's where things are already at and will continue to grow into. Um, Adam, I love to end the show with giving people an opportunity. This is, health, wealth, and happiness. That's for over a decade. That's what I've been like pushing. I want to teach people health, wealth, and happiness. So I'm gonna let you take. We've talked a lot about wealth and business. We can stay in that vein, or we can jump into another one. But give health, wealth, and happiness. Give our audience one nugget of information, or one nugget of your heart on that.
I'll say this. I'll say I'll say this. Time is the one thing that money can't buy back. You can
Mm,
only buy time forward. And so that's for health. That's also for wealth and business, but that's also for
yeah.
happiness. And so, um, time is the one thing that money can't buy back. So make sure you're putting your time where it makes the most sense.
Wow.
And start
That's good.
start spending better time on better things. Myself included, by the way. And again, it's the distractions. It's things like this, right? Like I want to spend time with you because I know you're going places, and the people that follow you are going places, and I want to just surround myself with people of influence, right? Your
Yeah.
circle of influence. You talked about that earlier. I've lived by that for the past 5-6 years now. Circle of influence. Who's in it and who's not? And why are they in it and why are they not? And so that's, for me, it's really the mindset of what's my time worth. um I can't get the hour that we spent together. I'll never be able to get it back. So was it as good as I could have given it? Was it the
That's
right
so
place at the
good.
right time? And if it was, then by golly, let's do it again. I can't wait to do the next one. I can't wait for the call back to do
Yeah,
another one.
yeah,
Yeah, you can't buy time back. Is one of the things that I've just really turned the corner on. So if you're working for a job, or if you're in a business and you're not happy with it, you can't buy that time back. So let's move forward. Like, let's work on tomorrow. Let's work on today.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
Really
you
good.
can't reflect. I mean, I think we're proven right out of this, because at the end of the day, we could have said, "Oh, well, look at my past, and because of that, I can't do something in the future." We
Yeah,
said, "No, no, no, no,
yeah,
no. The past is the past. Let's move on and let's stay resilient and keep on keeping on,
yeah.
because we've got bigger callings." So, um, yeah, I mean, that's my biggest thing, I think, is just remembering that time is one thing that no amount of money. I don't care if you're Gates or Bezos or who you are, okay? You're not able to buy yesterday back.
No,
So
no, it's a good point. Yeah,
so focus on what you're doing today to make tomorrow a better day. So
that's so
so
good. That's so good. Hey guys, I wanted to again, Adam, thanks for being on. I want to say thank you for following here. If you're listening to us, you're audio, you're watching us on video, wherever you're at, hit that subscribe button. Share this. That's the one request I have. Share this because somebody needs to hear this message. If any of this resonated with you, it's going to resonate with somebody else. So just share this podcast with somebody else. Go to prosperwithwayne.com, put in your name, email address, phone number. I will email you. I will text you. But we're going to bring value. We'll let you know of upcoming shows. Definitely going to have Adam back on again and go deeper into. I'd love to talk more about AI and the emerging markets of where AI is going. And, so we'll have another conversation without a doubt. But thanks for being on with us.
absolutely. Pleasure.
All right, guys. Go out there, prosper in everything that you do. God bless.
Thanks for joining us again at Prosper with Wayne. Be sure to subscribe to us for more exciting, life-changing episodes. Go today, in fact. Go now to prosperwithwayne.com and enter your email for our exclusive newsletter and other resources. God bless and go prosper.